Before we even start, what are all the comments? Is he seriously making a video about Denis Malgin? And I say no, because I think it's pronounced Denis Malgin, but I don't know, he was only a Leaf for like 5 seconds. The Toronto Maple Leafs have re-signed, yes, re-signed, because they already had the guy, Denis Malgin, for $700,000. I mean, you really gotta go out of your way to be upset about that. And it is a 1-year deal. $700,000 in 1 year is a big deal for you and I, but for the NHL, no. Before we begin, I just want to play a game because I'm kind of bored. It'll be a fun game, because listen, if you're watching this, it's because you're probably a hardcore Leaf fan, right? Or at very least a hardcore hockey fan. Come on, you know everything. You know the Leafs like the back of your hand, don't you? Yeah? Alright. Here are the pictures of 4 different men. You have 3 seconds to tell me which one of them is Denis Malgin, alright? 1, 2, 3. Did you get it? If you guessed this guy, then shame on you, because that is the player who Denis Malgin was traded for. That's Mason Marchment. He was sent to the Florida Panthers this season. This guy is Matt Thomas. He is a member of the Toronto Raptors. And if you guessed this one, that's Riley from Letterkenny. How dare you? If you guessed this guy, congratulations! You got it right. That is Denis Malgin. Now that we've played that game, first of all, I mean no disrespect. Second of all, I feel like everyone's anticipating a huge deal because the reaction to this one was just who cares. Meanwhile, all playoffs long, during the Stanley Cup Final, all we do is talk about the depth players. Oh, the third line, the fourth line, this guy coming out of nowhere, Joel Kiviranta. Depth is important. Now, I'm not saying Malgin's gonna have that kind of impact, but if you like him, you gotta keep him. And the Leafs obviously like him. They like him enough to trade for him and enough to re-sign him. And I'm sure it helps that he's cheap, but that is a huge factor heading into the season, more so than usual. You can't really be like, why would the Leafs re-sign Denis Malgin and then also come up with all these different trade ideas for Andreas Johnsson and Alexander Kerfoot and even Pierre Engvall? So, Denis Malgin, who the heck is this guy? He was drafted in the 4th round of the 2015 draft by the Florida Panthers. Spent some time playing in Switzerland. A couple years later, he comes over to North America and splits his first 2 seasons between the Panthers and the AHL. His sophomore season in 2017-18 showed a lot of promise. In just 51 games, he scored 11 goals and 22 points. And if you're the Florida Panthers, you're probably pretty excited about that. You're like, okay, this guy's got like middle 6 potential here, 20 goal potential. Never really lived up to that, depth player, and kind of struggled to stay in the lineup every day. In 8 games with the Leafs, he scored 0 points, but it's 8 games with a team. You're joining in a weird role. You don't really know where you fit mid-season. Yeah, he was given some good opportunities. Played a little bit, like a handful with John Tavares. And you might be like, where was he in the playoffs? Well, he wasn't there. HockeyDB has him listed as a center. I don't remember him ever playing there with the Leafs, and his face-off numbers are trash, so he probably is going to be a right winger for them. And he's not as good as the 11 goals and 21 points in 51 games he put up in 17-18, but he's not as bad as the 0 points that he put up in 8 games. He is typically between a 25-30 point pace scorer. And he doesn't take a lot of penalties, and as HockeyDB lists him at 5'9", 177 pounds, I'm sure a lot of you are rolling your eyes. Okay, so let me get this straight. He's a guy who can play in your lineup, just not every day. He's a decent player, but he doesn't produce very much, and he's not very big. He is the right-handed Nick Patan. And, yeah, kinda. Except if the Leafs deal a Johnsson and or a Kerfoot and or an Engvall and Clifford's leaving, you might need a Patan. You might need a Malgin. No, he's not a bruiser. No, he doesn't provide something that you lack. Except he sort of does. You know, I saw a lot of people lament the Mason Marchment deal, in part because he does kind of throw his weight around. Obviously, name brand. His dad was Brian Marchment. But losing sight of the fact that Mason Marchment's actually older than Denis Malgin. Malgin's only 23 years old. He turns 24 in January, when the season might start. Hopefully. The other thing I've heard is March, so. Been listening to the 31 Thoughts podcast. Elliot Friedman keeps saying New Year's Day, so come on. What's that? They're shutting down everything? Not again! No, shh, you came for the hockey talk. Forget I said it. Listen, if you were looking for a role player, a guy who's gonna go in there and just light the opposition up, Malgin's not your guy. He is, however, a guy, and that shouldn't even be controversial because he's making a guy money at $700,000. It's good to have lots of guys because sometimes you get injuries, and Malgin is at very least a guy, and he can probably play in your lineup every day and not have it be a disaster. Then there's the issue of what the heck is this season going to look like? While we're all trying to figure out what the next NHL season is going to look like, what's the next AHL season going to look like? is there going to be one? Because it's not out of the realm of possibility, and things change very fast, that if the AHL does not operate this upcoming season, but the NHL does, you'll have to have expanded rosters. None of this 3 extra guys thing. You're going to have to carry around at least half a dozen. Here's the long and short of this signing. You're dismissing it because you barely know the guy. You're dismissing it because you watched him play 8 games and he didn't really do anything. You're dismissing him because his career high is 11 goals. You're dismissing him because he's just another small skilled guy on the Leafs. But there aren't a lot of NHL players available who are only 23 years old, have 192 games of NHL experience under their belt, and come in at $700,000 against the cap. Call me crazy, but even as your 12th, 13th, 14th forward, that seems like a wise investment to me. Guy can fly, you put him out there with Pierre Engvall as maybe your 4th line center, another guy who can fly, okay. But what if he completely sucks? What if he completely sucks? It's $700,000. You can send him to the minors and bury his contract and have no consequence against the cap. What, they just have money to burn? Yes, they're the Leafs. Most other teams don't. They do. I'll end with this. I got a tweet that made me laugh. Obviously, this person is a podcast listener. Jordan asks, Denis Malgin, 4th liner or buoy? Okay, so this comes from a conversation on the podcast that we had about Martin Marincin, who the Leafs don't have to re-sign on account of he's already signed. Yep, they re-signed him in January. Yep. And what I said about him, because I've seen enough. I've seen enough over the years. I'm done. He is a buoy. You ever gone swimming in a large body of water, maybe a lake, maybe even the ocean or something like that? They have that line, they have those buoys to let you know, nope, too far, don't go that deep, because if you go that deep, if you go past the buoy, it's gonna be a problem. And what I was saying is, if you have to go down your depth chart, like there's injuries or what have you, and Martin Marincin pulls into your top 6, that's your buoy. You've gone too far. Denis Malgin is not that. He's a 4th liner, not a buoy. For a player to be a buoy, I would have to like see their name in the lineup and be like, oh, that's bad. Oh, we actually can't have that. We can't tolerate that. The team can't survive that. Say what you want about Malgin or a guy like Patan. Oh, they don't move the needle enough. Well, yeah, but do they move it backward? I would say the answer is no. So, what do I think of the signing? I barely think of it at all, but it's 2020 and I thought you could use the content, so here's a video. But as I'm scrolling, there's been some re-signings, these little trades. There was one between the Sens and the Panthers today. Stuff's ready to pop off, man, and I'll be here for you. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you liked this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell your friends to get out of the comment section if you're arguing. How are you arguing about this? It's Denis Malgin!